Hello and welcome to Maria in Rainbow Land. It's Martin Shaman time, and yet another time yet again we have Johan Hjelmborg with us from Isla de la Palma. Hi, Johan.
Hi, Maria.
And I'm sitting here in Denmark as usual. And today we're going to talk about Venus and Venus retrograde.
Yes. I think most people who like to take a walk in the evening time have noticed how beautiful Venus stands in the sky. Like it's a brilliant light. It's almost like an aeroplane landing, that powerful, and that's Venus. And Venus is, as you will know, evening star because we see it in the evening, and will soon change and become morning star. We have to wait a couple of months until we can see that, but Venus is right now retrograde, moving backwards. I can illustrate this if you'd like to see what I mean.
Yes, very much indeed.
This is the sun, and you are the earth. So you are watching the sun. Now, seen from the earth, the sun moves like this. And Venus and Mercury, which are closer to the sun than the earth, they circle around the sun like this.
Yes.
Now, so we have right now the situation Venus has for a long time ago passed the sun, and now Venus is turned a week ago, and it's about to move backwards like this. And when the sun, Venus, and the earth are alienated like this, we talk about the conjunction, and Venus will move further back. So this turn,
and I am the earth.
This loop.
In this perspective, I am the earth. This is as seen from the earth. It's a geocentric perspective.
You are the earth.
Yes. The viewer itself, yeah.
And the viewer is the earth. Right. Yeah. Now, so Venus makes this loop, this turn, 5 times in 8 years, and draws the most perfect pentagram in the sky.
And I will show this in right now from your website stellium.dk, where you can see this pentagram. You have this Venus, very beautiful Venus animation. Yes.
So Venus and the sun, they form the most beautiful pattern in the sky, the most regular pattern of all the planets. And
what do you mean by regular pattern? Just to people understand what you mean.
So we have right now Venus is retrograde. It will make a conjunction with the sun on the 25th of March, and since Venus has this regular cycle, 8-year cycle, if you look in your tables, in your ephemeris, you will see that 25th of March, 8 years ago, and in 8 years' time, you will find the conjunction again. It will be exact within, it's almost exactly 8 years, 2 days off. So in 8 years' time, in 2025, it will probably be on the 23rd of March that we find the conjunction.
Oh yeah, here it is. I will show this in a table with a much closer photo. But this is the ephemeris, I'll insert the table afterwards, so that to demonstrate this. Yeah, because it has this 8-year cycle, but only moves 2 or 2.5 degrees each year. So it moves very slowly. The place where retrograde. Yeah.
So we can talk about repetitive patterns when it comes to Venus, like habits, eating habits, for instance, and all sorts of habits. That which we do again and again and again, it's linked to Venus.
Yeah.
And it's fascinating to see in the practice when people come in times like this, Venus retrograde, that the themes which come up are about the personal habits changing, or the in relationships, that the situation among the partners, the roles of the partners, you could say, is also changing.
Yeah.
Because Venus now is not only retrograde. Venus shall meet the Sun on the 25th and will then become morning star. So Venus is going to show another face. Venus has two faces, the face of the evening star and the face of the morning star.
So when Venus is in front of the Sun in the zodiac, it's an evening star, and when it's behind the Sun, it's the morning star. Just to demonstrate this, is right now we have the Sun in Pisces and Venus is in Aries, so it's an evening star because it's on the other side of the Sun, and when it becomes a morning star is when it's retrogrades and move behind the Sun.
Yeah.
And yeah.
So if a client comes to the astrologer and Venus is about to change from morning to evening star or vice versa, we know that there is a change in the habits of this person. There's probably a change in the relationships of this person, because in the horary chart, in the consultation chart for the moment, Venus is about to make this change, and the person will also make this change.
Yeah, the øjeblikshoroskop. You can
Yes.
watch our program about that as well. Yes.
Now, but this time you could say that the meeting of Venus and Sun is somewhat more dramatic because it takes place in Aries. On the 25th of March, the Sun has come to 5 degrees Aries, and so this is the Sun has come to 5 degrees Aries. Venus moves backwards, 5 degrees Aries, and when Venus is retrograde and meets the Sun in the conjunction, this conjunction is a very intense story, because they move so fast. It will only be very few days that Venus is within orb of the Sun, because the Sun moves in this direction and the Venus in the other direction. It's like
they move in opposite directions.
A collision.
Like two cars, it always goes
bang.
Yes.
Yeah. So this confrontation of Venus and Sun can be quite dramatic, and if you follow the news, you may also see in the news that there are stories about celebrities and scandals, and you will also see Venus-Sun conjunction often is linked to abuse of different sorts. It can be abuse of drugs, or eating too much, or sexual abuse. Different aspects of abuse are very often seen with this Venus-Sun conjunction.
Also because we are talking about habits. You talked about habits, and that's of course bad habits as well, which we can consider different sorts of addictions to be as well, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So of course it will make a great difference whether the conjunction takes place in the horary chart, in the consultation chart, or whether you find it in a natal chart.
But in a natal chart where you have a Venus-Sun conjunction, they often talk about that it's a very beautiful and or maybe sexually attractive, if it's a woman or could also be a man. It could be. What do you think about that?
Well, you know what I think about this, that every time you feel tempted or some astrologers feel tempted to say you are like this or like that from a birth chart, I would say no. This is not the way it works, because the birth chart, you could share this birth chart with thousands of people in principle, and you're not all the same. Or the conjunction, say Venus-Sun conjunction, lasts for a couple of days by Venus retrograde, and very long time when Venus is direct. When
because the
moves like this and the Venus like this,
yeah,
they are very close together for weeks. But yeah, you can say that it's a very sociable combination. If you have it in the natal chart, you're not likely to be a hermit. You're rather likely to look for the company of people, doing things together with people.
But what about if it's retrograde? I mean, if the aspect is that it's conjuncting while in a retrograde process or in a forward moving, will that make a difference in the matter of socializing or not?
No, that's probably more or less the same. But when retrograde, it has a certain hectic quality. There's a stress factor there. It has a hectic quality.
Because you're forced to reevaluate or redo something in the past where you'd rather move forward.
Well, of course, we should distinguish between natal charts and constellation charts and the transit as they are in the sky right now. Because generally, you could say when a planet is retrograde, it looks backwards into its own story, so to speak, and what was. It's a more reflective, more analyzing phase, generally. But when it comes to the conjunction with the Sun, it's like now you've really got to show who you are from your heart, and be honest about it. It's like somehow the Sun always demands an honesty, let's say so. Like Mercury retrograde conjunction Sun, Venus retrograde conjunction Sun. It's a very personal matter, and it's like now you must be honest. How do you feel from your heart? Not what you think, but what you feel. Yeah, that's very important. But again, it's different in the different constellation charts, and you could say generally those who are born with the Sun in Libra or Taurus, they will of course be more synchronized with Venus, and
because Venus is the ruler of Libra and Taurus. Yes.
Right. So that means whatever Venus undertakes, they will somehow be doing the same thing. So the Venus people, they are re-evaluating their lives. And you could say it's also about values, the habits. The re-evaluation is a central theme.
Because the retrograde is re-evaluation, reconsidering, reliving certain things. Before you continue, let me just put in something. A lot of astrologers talk about that. For example, when they make these monthly forecasts or something like that for specific signs, that let's say it's Aries for April 2017. Then they would always, or they would often begin the program with saying, this applies to Aries Sun, Aries Rising, and Aries Moon. So in this case, you are slightly different with these matters, or do you think that because you and I, for example, we are both Libra Rising, you are Capricorn and I'm an Aries, but we have Libra Rising, both of us. So wouldn't it be more emphasized for us than for people without anything strongly going on in their birth chart in those signs? Libra and Taurus.
Well, yes, but you see, we can't just say that it's whether you have the moon, the sun, or the ascendant in a given sign, that would point us to the same kind of interpretation. It doesn't. The sun, moon, the ascendant are real things. And I would also be careful not to be too specific. I mean, if you're born in Aries, right? So this takes place in your first house, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And we have a natural dynamics between Aries and Libra.
Yeah.
You're Libra rising also. Of course, you are working together with people. You have a private life, a private partnership going on, but you also have a kind of business partnerships and cooperations going on. Yeah. So, of course, since it takes place in your first house, say, seen from the sun, Aries, the first sign there where the sun is, it shows that you will be extremely busy with people. Extremely busy, because it's a very sociable combination, this one.
I am extremely busy with people.
And of course, when we come closer to the 25th of March, it could be somehow critical for you, because there may be some appointments. And how about these appointments? Will they be kept or won't they be kept? And how about other people? And you see, it's a somehow stressful factor. It doesn't, I mean, it on a personal level, it will, of course, affect the Venus people much stronger. But it's so close in your periphery, all those people you're dealing with. See, so it's all around you. It's in your camp, so to speak, in Aries. Yeah. It takes place in Aries. That's your camp. That's where you are. So, of course, you'll experience it strongly like that. But for me, being a Capricorn, Aries is in the 4th. You could say if you start counting from Capricorn, where I have my sun being the first sign, yeah. And then when I count, Aries will be in the 4th position, as seen from Capricorn. And that is in my base, that's in my home, where I'm doing a lot of work, because my house needs repairing and many things. I have to do very many things there. Yeah. So, you see, to me, it may not be so strongly linked to relationships, but rather to things and decorating my home, painting, things like that, more practical level.
Yeah.
So we have to differentiate a little.
Okay, so you look. That's where your starting point here is the sun sign.
Yes, that's that works well, and it's easy to do.
We're talking about, as with many things in life, and what you mentioned before was that things operate in cycles in our lives, just as the planets operate in cycles. And the retrograde period is a cycle of 40 days and 40 nights. And we have an 18 or 19 months cycle before the new retrograde starts for Venus. And we have the 8 years you also talked about before, until it returns to retrograde at the same spot, right?
Yes.
I have one question until I'll give you the word, and that is, when you taught me a lot of the basic things about astrology, my boyfriend was born exactly 8 years before me, and my brother as well. And I just remember you said something, and correct me if I'm wrong. Oh, that's a good combination. You have a good Venus difference here. Yeah.
Yes.
And back then I was not. I just accepted it as I am. Very open to whatever you are saying, because I know you have a solid reason for saying things. Your empirical sense is very strong. So I know that you've tried it and tested it. But can you explain why you said that?
Well, there seems to be an affinity. If you have Venus in the same place or same sign, then you will likely have similar tastes you could say, and a strong affinity. And if you have the same tastes as somebody else, it's very easy to be with that person, isn't it? If you like the same kind of food, or you have the same kind of habits, like the same kind of music, then you are naturally sharing things. So, so having Venus in the same place is a nice thing.
Yeah, I totally agree. I was in a relationship for a long time where it wasn't like that. And that was complicated, but I also learned a lot. But there's not as much peace and harmony in that situation. No, yeah, so I get it. But about the cycles, the different cycles, I have this book that you and Louise, your wife, wrote. One out of many books in different languages. This is the Danish version called Mercury. Roles and how would you translate this into English?
I'm just yeah. Wow, forvandlinger. Well, Mercury is a trickster who can take on any shape he wants to and come in any disguise he wants to. So the word forvandlinger is changing from one shape to another shape, like that.
Yeah. So this is the Mercury cycles where you are describing here different of the three stars. I don't know if you can see anything here, or otherwise I'll just put it in as a table. But you can see that Venus has three. What do you call them in English? I don't even know.
Mercury has 3 loops.
Loops. That's
loops. Mercury turns retrograde 3 times a year. See? Yes. So 3 times a year, more or less, Mercury turns retrograde and makes this loop.
Why?
I think I should explain what the loop is, so that you have an idea.
Yes.
This is the sun. Here we have Venus right now, and Venus circles around the sun like this. Now Venus has come to this point and will move backwards, retrograding,
seen from our
back to 26.5 degrees of Pisces, where Venus will turn direct, move forward, and then up here. So we have 2 points in the zodiac. The first point where Venus turns retrograde, 13.5 degrees of Aries, and the point where it turns direct again, 26.5 degrees of Pisces, yes. Approximately 16.5 degrees. This is the size Venus loop.
4th and 15th of April, yes.
So the loop is this the distance in the zodiac where the planet turns retrograde and direct. In case of Venus, it will be 16.5 degrees. That will be the size of the loop. Jupiter, for instance, has 10 degrees size. If you look up in your ephemeris, you will see when does it turn retrograde, when does it turn direct, what's the distance.
Yes.
Now, yes. Venus first passed the 26 degrees, 6 degree Pisces on the 30th of January, and then it turned retrograde on the 4th of March. Yes. It's not just a week ago, approximately. Moves backwards again, goes back to 26 degrees of Pisces on the 15th of April, and will move out of its loop on the 18th of May. So that's 3.5 months that Venus is in this area.
Retrograde cycle.
Yeah, it's loop. So we call this the loop.
And in English they also often say it's in its shadow period. That's what they call it.
Okay, yes, some astrologers use another term, but as long as we know what we're talking about, the term
Yeah,
doesn't matter.
but somehow I prefer loops more than shadow because shadow is so dark.
Yeah, and I know, I mean, shadow has been used in many different contexts, like also psychological contexts, the shadow, you see. And so I think those astrologers who use this expression, they have taken it from the psychological terms, and then they make some sort of interpretation out of it. I think that's why they use the word shadow. I use the word loop because it's a technical description of what's happening. It makes a loop.
Yes. You don't put anything else into it. You leave it open.
Not in the first place. No. Now, when a planet, in this case Venus, has entered its loop, it is caught into a circuit, you could say, and has things to do. And not until the planet leaves the loop has it finished its business in the loop. And especially if clients are coming, if you are astrologer and the client comes and Venus is significant, say Venus rules the ascendant of the consultation chart, Libra or Taurus rising, then you will know that this person is synchronized with Venus and is likely to react strongly on these dates when Venus leaves the loop, or the date when Venus conjoins the Sun.
Yeah.
Now, in this case, the conjunction takes place on the 25th of March in 5 degrees Aries. But actually, Venus passed 5 degrees of Aries on the 10th of February.
The first time.
And then later, going retrograde, meeting the Sun on now the 25th. And Venus will, the last time, pass this point on the 8th of May, which means the 10th of February, Venus 5 degrees Aries. 25th of March, 5 degrees Aries to the Sun. The 8th of May, 5 degrees Aries. Now, these dates will be significant. And for the practicing astrologer, I would say, give and take 1 day, more or less. Sometimes it could be on the 9th of February or on the 11th.
Yeah.
Or it may not come until the 26th of March, or maybe already on the 24th of March, or the 7th or 9th of May.
Yeah, I'll just add something when you're done. Yes.
So now, since this conjunction this time is a bit dramatic, I could say. I mean, the retrograde Venus conjunction Sun is always a bit dramatic. This person who comes with Venus ruling, this is likely to be a crucial phase in this person's life. And you could also say, this is a phase where you are going to show another face, because now you are evening star showing this face, but there will come a change, and then you will show another face to the world.
When it becomes a morning star.
When you become morning star.
Yeah.
So what is it within you that has been hidden and is now coming forward? This change. Yeah. So Venus has to do with that very, very much.
And the significance for you, for the person in this chart is where has it got anything to do with where Venus is in the personal birth chart as well? In this case.
Yeah, of course. Although in the consultation chart, horary chart, Venus will point to specific things, and also being the person, if ruling this. Now, but Venus can't offer anything else than what she already offers in the birth chart.
Okay, so in my case,
Venus has something to offer, has something to give. But Venus can't give anything which is not already indicated in the birth chart.
So in my case, for example, it's in Pisces, and Venus is in my 5th house in Pisces. So that would be things hidden in this. In my personal chart will come up, for example.
Yeah, it probably shows that it could mean that you will change your style. Certain aspects of your style, how you present yourself, may change. Yes.
Yeah, because it's also about the makeovers and appearances. It could be in general, as you say. So for women, it could be a change of hair or new glasses or just a complete change of style, going from a hippie to whatever, wherever it falls in your chart and what's important for you.
Yeah, and those who are closely synchronized with Venus, they are already in this phase where they are changing their habits.
Yeah.
Maybe they have started a special diet because they want to lose weight, or for health reasons.
Yeah.
I mean, we have so many different kinds of habits, but
also bad habits as addictions, and there are so many addictions as well, right? You could be addicted to social medias or substances of any kind, or working too much. Could be so many things in this case, right?
Yeah, now we're talking in general. So of course it's difficult to be specific.
Yeah.
If you have a specific chart, you can be much more specific.
Yeah, that's the case. Yeah, so that's also about being generalizing. Yeah.
Now, that which is if someone is in a phase now where Venus is say significant. Let's say a person is in a phase in his or her life where he or she is changing the habits, the diet, clothes, colors, whatever. Now, this person could go 8 years back, or 16 years back, or 8 years ahead, and will find there are similarities. It could also be something in the relationship. If there is a special situation right now which must be solved within a relationship, 8 years ago there was a similar theme. And we could also say, and this is the weird thing about the regularity of Venus, that
great example.
We have now we have the retrograde conjunction. Yeah, but 4 years ago, Venus did like this, overtaking the Sun in 5 degrees of Aries 4 years ago, 12 years ago, and so on. Which means
we have these 4 years.
We have this cycle of 8 years, but 4 years ago, it was
the 4 and 12 year cycle. So it matches in pairs. That's what you're trying to say, also, right?
Like it is an 8 year cycle, but then we have 4 years. 4 years ago, it was not the retrograde Venus; it was Venus overtaking the Sun.
Yeah.
And in 4 years, we shall have the same one overtaking the Sun. In 8 years, it will be Venus retrograde. You can check.
Very interesting.
And you will see it's exact to the date almost.
That's the ephemeris. That's how your ephemeris looks. This is mine. I have a great example. I have to come with it now, unless you are. Are you fit? Can I come with a great example?
Yeah.
8 years ago, my mom died, and she was she died on the 3/6/9, the 3rd of June 2009, and she was limping on one leg. You remember, Johannes, my uncle, if you didn't see the first program. So she had and she was also ready to die. I remember she said that now I've accomplished all that I wanted 3 months before. So it's not like well, of course it's always sad, and it was a hardcore period. She was not that old, and etc. But for her, I mean, that's a good statement to hear for someone who's dying later on, right? Because you have a sort of sense of closure. Right now, I'm just coming with a funny comparison. Mooney, my dog, is third, or our dog, my ex and my dog, which we share 4 months each, is limping. She's 13 and a half years old, and she's limping badly on one leg. and it's going slowly downhill and has been for 3 years, just as my mom. Slowly downhill. It's just a little scary because I just got her back yesterday, and I just saw that now it's. I mean,
it's getting worse. Okay.
Yeah. So it's just like, and I just remember the feeling come up. Not this. I mean, I'm 8 years older now, so I'm more. And it's my dog, not my mom, you know. But I could just. I mean, Muni has a very, very high status in my life since I haven't had kids yet. But I just remember I had just shortly had the same feeling of, okay, we are in a long goodbye process here. And that was exactly the same feeling I had 8 years ago.
Yeah, so let's see how long time she has. Maybe it will be June, like your mom.
Yeah, who knows?
Who knows?
I don't hope that my good, very, very good friend and ex-boyfriend that was watching this, because he's not going to want to know this. So I'm just going to keep it to myself. And I won't share the program with him. But anyway, I had another thing I wanted to mention when, as you mentioned, the 3 times that it passes the sun, that they conjunct Venus and the sun. And the last time was the 8th, or give and take a day before or after something kicks in. Funny enough, it's the same time as the true node enters Leo, goes from Virgo to Leo in May. So that's certainly going to be a time where we feel a change, I'm sure. In the schedule, I always have to watch my mouth because I'm a little scared of saying something that, with my Mercury in Pisces here. Where's your Mercury? It's in Aquarius, right?
No, Capricorn.
It is in Capricorn. Oh, damn, that's.
Well,
Aquarius.
Venus is Aquarius,
yeah.
Talking about the node, I mean, Venus has nodes too, like the moon. Like all planets have nodes, the crossing points with the ecliptic. And Venus nodes are in 16 degrees of Gemini Sagittarius. And so if there is a Sun-Venus conjunction, in 16 degrees the Gemini or Sagittarius, it will be an occultation, and Venus will pass the Sun's disk, which happened in 2012. Remember? Yeah, that's a Venus cycle.
Do you remember when it was?
Well, probably the 7th of June, because let's see.
Oh yeah,
and 8 years.
Date of that degree. Yeah. I'm
and 8 years before, also in 2004, there was this special conjunction, very special conjunction. So you see this pattern with Venus. Many people expected the whole world to change with the Venus, and maybe. It's stupid to have too strong expectations about how things, what will come out of it, because many things have definitely changed a lot the last couple of years, a lot, with the internet and the complete surveillance of all people. It's like the whole world becoming psychic at once, technically, with the internet.
Yeah, it's so crazy.
With the GPS knowing exactly where you are, and wherever you leave electronic traces in the internet, you see. So things have really changed a lot, but in a different way, as many thought. It's a kind of technical collective clairvoyance, isn't it? You can't hide anything.
No, that's right. It's like if it was in the real world, having cameras everywhere where you walk around.
Yeah, it's interesting. Nah, well, let's go back to our subject of Venus. So,
yeah. But
I would say,
could I just mention one thing? People always talk about that the retrograde is from, in this case, the 4th of March until the 15th of April. And that's it. I mean, even I like for any planet, they're like, okay, this is a retrograde. Like, for example, when you see here in the ephemeris, it's a dark gray area. And you know the planet is retrograde. And people look at it and say, okay, Mercury is retrograde for these 3 weeks. And then we're home free of that constellation or transit, and whatever it is. And that's where they're wrong, because what you just described earlier, it's a much longer process. This Venus retrograde goes from the 30th of January until the 18th of May.
hey, that is the loop, you see. That's the loop. So Venus is in this loop 3.5 months. Now, it's true, Venus turns retrograde on the 4th of March, but you see, this is the Sun in Venus. Venus turning retrograde here, so you have the period, Venus being retrograde before she meets the Sun, and then retrograde having met the Sun already, moving back like this. And here, Venus is evening star, but here, after the Sun, it will be morning star. Retrograde evening star, retrograde morning star. See?
Yeah.
And so we can't say that it will be the same meaning just because it's retrograde. So before it meets the Sun, the meeting of the Sun, that's really meeting the boss, you see. So it's like going to an exam. So you better be prepared. And if you are well prepared and you go to the exam, you will pass your exam wonderfully. If you're not well, if you're ill prepared or not prepared at all, you won't pass your exam. See?
No.
Now, so this is a period where you are reflecting, and somehow you know you will have to pass this exam. Afterwards, you are more re-evaluating, like if you have had a performance of some sort, and after the performance has ended, then you sit there and say, well, I could have done this better, or I could have done this differently, or maybe I should have done like this or like that. See? After the performance, which is the conjunction. So we have to differentiate between retrograde before and retrograde after the conjunction. Two very, very different scenarios. Very different.
Before and after the exam, yeah. But still,
exactly.
we are meeting the same subject again on the 3 times we are passing the specific degrees.
Then
so we're not out of the theme running. That's what I meant as well. Of course, it feels easier and lighter once we become the morning star starts or could be because we're moving forward. So we are like feeling movement. I mean, that's for human beings often associated with something a little bit easier.
Let me go back to these 3 points here. We have 5 degrees Aries. That's where the Sun and Venus meet on the 25th of March.
Yeah.
So, on the 10th of February, there might have been something coming up, like a forewarning sign of that which will come on the 25th of March. And on the 8th of May, after Venus has been retrograde and comes up again and passes 5 degrees Aries for the last time, there will be a reactivation of this theme.
From the
it will come up again.
February, 25th of March, and
and 8th of May. So Venus hasn't finished its business with the Sun, not until it has actually left the loop, but at least it must pass 5 degrees Aries for the last time.
Yeah.
Yes. And for better or worse. I mean, sometimes you'll find if you did very well at the exam, then you'll get an extra offer on the 8th of May. Huh?
So it doesn't have to be bad.
If you didn't pass the exam well, then there will come some extra difficulties relating to that on the 8th of May.
Yeah. So we are in the same theme, you could say, the three times. Yeah, and now you're talking about this, that something like something with value. If we want to look a little closer on what exactly Venus stands for in this, symbolically, we would look at Taurus and Libra, which is ruled by Venus, right? And then look at, like, if you take Taurus, for example, it's like values in many ways, and beauty, etc. And as you have also been talking about, the habits. And then we have the Libra, which is relationships or relations in general. It doesn't have to be a partner or romantic, because many people associate Venus with the goddess of love, for example. So, but it's relations in general, right? It doesn't have to be romantic.
No, Venus basically is not a romantic planet. Venus rules an air sign, Libra, which is objective and cool, and an earth sign, Taurus.
Yeah.
Taurus, earth sign, Libra, air sign, they're both objective elements.
Yeah.
Whereas fire and water are subjective.
Yes.
So although many people relate Venus to romance and feelings and all that, I would rather say pleasure. Yes. Pleasure. You enjoy things. You enjoy that which pleases the senses.
Yeah.
Yes. The music.
Taurus.
The food.
I never met a Taurus. Sorry, what did you say? I'm sorry, I won't hear it. I didn't hear you.
Well, I just talked about the pleasures of food, the pleasure of beauty, the pleasure of music. Any sort of pleasure is linked to Venus. But you also find, interestingly enough, how the two signs, Taurus and Libra, both ruled by Venus, somehow share qualities. That which is happening in Taurus also happens in Libra and vice versa. And this is a very strange thing, like Aries and Scorpio sharing things. Now, going back to this Venus, I would say, since the conjunction takes place in Aries, which is the 12th sign as seen from Taurus, or from Libra in the 7th. Now, then we should have to interpret accordingly. Now, that which happens in the 12th house is extremely private. That's the most private area of the horoscope, and other people don't see what's happening there. And yourself, you are, say, half dreaming in the 12th house, half meditating, half dreaming, half reflecting, but you're not conscious very well about your outer world. You are in your own world, in the 12th house. And maybe also very often things that don't always go very well in the 12th house, because outer physical things where you have to be objective, where you have to be observant and notice what's going on out there. If you are in the 12th, you're likely not to be aware of what's going on out there.
No, the 3D world is not for 12th house and then Pisces. The energy is often 4D, 5D, or 6D is what I would like to say.
Well, let's leave Pisces out of this.
Then the 12th sign, yeah.
Now, Libra, you see, the conjunction takes place in Aries. So that is vis-a-vis, which means that is directly linked to relationships and business relationships or partner love relationships, all sorts of relationships, and changes in the working. See, if I'm used to do things like this and you are used to do things like that, then we swap roles. The changing of roles is typical by these conjunctions.
Okay, yeah. But
You'll find a similar thing with Mercury, the change of roles. there are many similarities between Mercury and Venus when it comes to the conjunction and the pattern with the Sun.
Yeah.
The functional level. Yeah.
So the change of roles happen your own role in relation to others, for example, or your own role in your appearances.
Yeah. I mean, to put it very simply, that if we were partners and I'm always driving the car, then you would say, now it's my turn. I'm going to drive the car from now on.
Yeah.
Oh. You see, this change of roles.
Yeah. And does that very often happen with the switch from evening to morning star?
Yes.
Yeah, that's when it happens. And in this case, that would be the 25th. No, the 25th of March.
Yeah, and well, give and take one day. Now, this doesn't mean that for all people in the whole world that this date is going to be extremely spectacular. No, it's not. But those who are directly linked to Venus, they will sense it. Not just those people who are born in the signs of Libra and Taurus, but also those people who are doing Venusian things, like musicians, artists, and so on. They will, or designers of clothes and so on. People who are doing Venusian things, they will also feel this conjunction. Because it relates to their activity, and not to the person, but to their activity.
Yeah. It's interesting. It's definitely. I'm very well aware of it. Yeah, but an interesting change. A lot of changes these days, these times. But always interesting. It's so. I just love that you can see this in the schedule of your. That you can see the tendencies, etc. I mean, how can you not be interested in astrology? But I guess if people are watching right now, they are interested. So everyone is like, yeah. At this point.
You see, astrology is not just an interest; it's a passion.
Yeah, it's a passion, and it's also a weather report of so important. So please share this video if you like it. Okay, so we have these phases and cycles, and I just like to make one comparison, which I know that other people have done before. It's the 40 days and 40 nights cycle, which you can compare to Jesus in the Bible, who was went to the desert for 40 days and 40 nights, and also Buddha had a similar 40 day, 40 nights period. And I don't know how many of the prophets did something like that. But the idea of it was to go down to the underworld and come back, kind of, because you're alone with yourself in this phase. It's more an introverted, because it's retro, so it's kind of like also intro in a way, where you have to face and thereby change through seeing yourself in the inner mirror or something like that. How do you feel about that? Could we transmit this to our?
First of all, you could say fasting in the desert. Fasting means not eating.
Yeah.
Now, Venus is directly linked to your eating habits and to food. Yeah. So fasting, and then comes the meeting of the sun, the exam, as I said. Yeah. So first you fast for a certain number of days, and then there will be a critical point. Meeting of self is always dramatic. So then after that meeting, Venus goes to the root of the loop, and the root of the loop is the root of existence. Mercury does the same thing, and with the Mercury loop, we have given a name to the root point, where it turns direct again, you see, and that is the point of the magician. There you find the hypnotist, there you find the depth psychology, there you find the mythology in the root. So fasting for 40 days, and you come back
the root
to your root.
Just to point this out, the root would be here.
The root will be when it turns direct in the ephemeris. Yeah.
Can you find your book? I know you have one, right? Don't you have one? Just to show you the front. You have the German version. That's Johan and Louise's book. They wrote about Mercury.
Yeah,
Where are we talking about now? Can you point at the point of the loop? Where on this book, on the cover?
Well, I shall do my best. You see, this is Mercury. I mean, we should have had Venus.
But I will show it afterwards. I will show it.
Right. But you see, the middle here, that's the Earth.
Yeah.
And you see the Sun there. So the Sun cycles, and this is Mercury's path. And here, Mercury, this point, this is the bottom of the loop. This is where it turns direct again and moves on through the zodiac.
And that's where the magician is born.
Well, in horary charts, in consultation charts, you will find that this theme of the depth of your psyche is central, is important. Whether you are a magician or depth psychologist or study mythology or whatever, the depth of your psyche, that is the depth, the root of the loop.
Yeah. So that, okay, yeah. I remember we talked about it, actually. I'm not going to go further into it, but we had this Mercury retrograde going over Christmas from the 20th of December till, it must have been until the 10th, or I don't remember exactly, of January. No, the 14th, 15th. I don't know, but there were 3 weeks around that. And I remember that you actually went to something I'm not going to go deeper into, but as you hit on the 8th of January, on your birthday, the bottom of the Mercury, actually here, the point where you just pointed before, you had a very, very deep, in the innermost depth of your core, of your essence, which is like microcosmos, like a macrocosmos, right? You experienced.
Yeah.
It
was a fantastic and beautiful and very deep and profound experience. Yes, on that day when Mercury was in the bottom of.
And when you say that, what about this on the 25th? Then could we somehow also use it? I know you probably say something like, "Well, you shouldn't do it like that; it will happen naturally or something." But could we say like really look forward to that? The 25th could be a kind of like not like a revelation, or just hitting.
Oh yes,
yes.
You can. Yes.
Yeah.
When it comes to, and here I would say yes. When it comes to love, and the understanding of love, nature of love, and the root of your love life, yes, it would be a very fine period to get to a deeper understanding of it. Yes.
Nice. So it could be revelation time. So as you just mentioned several times, it doesn't have to be something bad, because people that tend to fear retrogrades to revise things, etc. But it's often a good time to also. I always felt like once you're past it, you really transform. You had the opportunity to transform something and move on in a lighter backpack.
But I could say, I could put it that way. When you're moving forward, you may learn something, but when you're retrograde, you will understand it, and you can't do without.
Love this description. You learn something and then you'll understand it. Ooh, yeah, you can't do without it. Definitely no.
So it's like breathing in and
out. Wouldn't that be a very good way of ending this program?
I think so. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Johan. It's always a pleasure. See you in a week or two for another program about astrology.
Okay.
And thanks for watching. For you guys out there, remember you can subscribe to my channel, Maria and Rainbow Land, and find stellium.dk, Johan Hjelmborg and Louise Kirsebom's page if you want to visit their page. Thanks for watching. See you next time.
Bye.
Super.